Good morning students, this is Sonia ma'am. Today we will be taking chapter number 1 class 10th science, that is chemical reactions and equations. Basically we will be talking about chemical reactions. First of all, you should know what are chemical reactions. For this we have to recall what we have studied in earlier classes. If you remember, we have studied what are physical and chemical changes. Physical change is a one in which only the physical properties of a substance changes, like its state, its shape, its size. Whereas in a chemical change, a new substance is formed with a new composition with new properties. For example, you have a piece of paper. When you cut it down into 4 pieces, only the shape and size of that paper changes. But if you burn that paper, what do you get? You get ashes. वो जल जाता है और आपको उसकी राख मिलती है. And that ash is totally different from the paper. It means it is a new substance. If you remember, in lab we have done magnesium ribbon burning. When we burned that magnesium ribbon, it turned into ashes. White color magnesium oxide was formed. So it's a chemical change. So whenever a chemical change occurs, some chemical reactions are taking place in that change. So what are chemical reactions? Chemical reactions are associated with chemical change. Rearrangement of atoms of a substance takes place. Means the atoms are the same, but only the rearrangement takes place. Whenever a chemical change occurs, chemical reaction is said to take place. Chemical reactions are usually irreversible and a new product is formed. I again repeat myself, chemical reactions are usually irreversible, means it cannot be reversed back. Suppose you are burning magnesium ribbon, you are getting magnesium oxide, you will not get back the magnesium and we get a new product in this case. So they are basically irreversible. So there are two types of changes, physical and chemical, and a chemical change involves a chemical reaction in which only the rearrangement of atoms takes place. Now, how do we know that a chemical reaction is taking place? Signs of chemical reactions. There are 5 main signs that indicate a chemical reaction has taken place. Suppose change in color. You are adding two things and you observe a change in color. If you remember, we have put iron nails in copper sulfate solution. What was the color of copper sulfate solution? It was green in color. And when we put iron nails into copper sulfate solution, after few minutes we observed that the color changes to green. It means some chemical change has taken place. Evolution of a gas. You are doing a reaction and some gas evolves from it, and it means a chemical change has taken place. Change in temperature. Heat is given out or heat is absorbed. Both are sign of chemical reaction. Change in state and temperature and formation of precipitate. These are some signs of chemical reaction. Now, the chemical reactions are represented by some equations. A chemical equation is the one which represents a chemical reaction in symbolic form. We have learnt the symbols of elements and compounds in chapter number 4 chapter number 3 class 9th. You must have remembered that element symbols, so it will be easier for you to write down their equations. For example, we are burning carbon in oxygen and we get carbon dioxide. So C plus O2 is giving you CO2. You are burning hydrogen in oxygen to get water. So H2 plus O2 is giving you H2O. Here example is given Methane plus oxygen is giving you carbon dioxide plus water. Now, while writing an equation, we have two sides of equation, left hand side and right hand side. On the right hand side, we write the products, and on the left hand side, we write the reactants. What are the reactants? Reactants are those substances which are reacting in a chemical reaction, and products are those substances which we get at the end of a reaction. Those which are reacting are called as reactant, and what we get at the end of a reaction are called as the products. Chemical equation. The simplest form of description of a chemical reaction in a shorter form is by writing it in the form of an equation. जैसे मैंने अभी आपको एग्जाम्पल भी दिया था, मैग्नीशियम रिबन को हमने ऑक्सीजन में बर्न किया और हमको मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड मिली. यहाँ पर मैग्नीशियम और ऑक्सीजन दोनों रिएक्टेंट हैं और मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड जो हमको एंड में मिली जो कि वाइट रंग का पाउडर था, दैट इज़ अ प्रोडक्ट. सो Mg and O2 here are reactants and MgO जो हमको एंड में मिल रहा है, that is called as the product. The reactants are written on the left hand side and the products are written on the right hand side, and we place an arrow in between the reactant and products. Characteristics of a chemical equation. The equation must represent known facts. Whatever is known to you, the temperature, the pressure, the states of the element reacting together and the product form, it should be fully represented on a chemical equation. The equation must contain the correct formula for the reactant and products. We cannot compromise on the formula of a reactant and product. We cannot change it. The formula should be according to law of conservation of mass. The law of conservation of mass should be satisfied in that equation. Means the total number of atoms of an element on the right hand side should be equal to total number of atoms on the right hand side. In this way, showing phases in chemical equation. Suppose we are taking two substances and they are in the solid phase. So, we have to represent it by S, and if it is in liquid phase, we will write L, and it is in aqueous gaseous phase, we write G, and if it is in aqueous form, means dissolved in water, we write AQ. For example, if we have taken magnesium and burnt in oxygen, so magnesium is a solid, we will write S, and oxygen was a gas, we will write G, and magnesium oxide, which is also a solid, we will write S over there. A chemical equation should be balanced. Why it should be balanced? It should be balanced so as to follow law of conservation of mass. You recall, we have studied that it states that mass can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. Means the total number of atoms of elements on right hand side should be equal to total number of atoms of elements on the left hand side. Both should be equal. That means the mass has not changed. What we have taken before should remain afterwards also. Unbalanced and balanced chemical equations. See over here, you are writing H2 plus Cl2 and it is forming HCl. Is it balanced? There are two atoms of hydrogen